everyone. Hi, hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Alison Rosen is your new best friend. I am sitting here in my studio on a moderate Friday with your husband and mine, Daniel Quantz. It is moderate. It's not hot and it's not cold.
Oh, we're talking temperature?
What did you think I meant? Like a mid, like a shitty?
I'm saying it's too early to know if this Friday is moderate.
Oh, yeah. Anything could happen on this Friday, but we know that it's not hot. So that I am thankful for.
I'm loving this weather.
Yesterday was hot.
Let's do this whole episode.
About the weather?
About the weather.
Okay.
People do love the weather. Did you know that?
Yeah. There's songs about talking about it and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's why the number one channel every year is the Weather Channel.
Have we discussed this? I'm sure I've talked about it on the show before, but because I grew up in California where there's not really any weather. Have we had this discussion before? I thought talking about the weather meant talking about nothing. But then
it is.
Well, no, I think it's more talking about the most surface small talk.
Well, same thing.
It's not though. You might say it's like a difference without a distinction, but to me those are two different things.
Tell me the difference.
This is like the optical illusion where it's like, is it two candlesticks or is it the shape in between the candlesticks? Is it an old lady?
Two faces.
Yeah,
I guess. Is it a candlestick?
or
two faces.
I guess that's what I mean. Yeah. One is talking about nothing, like just sort of spinning in place, talking about nothing, just jibber jabbering. And the other one is talking about something, but it's very surface. To me, those are different. And I think that talking about the weather is the latter. Now I wish we weren't talking about it at all.
But wait, what would be the circumstance in which somebody is just literally talking about jibber jabber? Like
this, like, yeah, it's a pretty moderate day. It's not hot, it's not cold. You know, like it's nothing.
Right.
Versus
talking about the weather.
Yes. That's the California weather. Pre-climate change. Versus, wow, big hurricane.
Oh my God. Hey, wow, big hurricane, right, everybody?
Yeah, and then I'm like, hey, I want to talk about my feelings.
I guess.
Why must we stay on the surface?
When one says, hey, we're just talking about the weather, I think, generally speaking, people mean like just talking about nothing. Just. But
there actually is weather. There are weather events.
Right, honey, but that's the... If, on the other hand, you're in the middle of a hurricane and you're saying talking about the weather, obviously that would have a different... But most of the time, people are not in the middle of a hurricane.
Imagine if you're like, we need to evacuate. There's extreme weather headed for us. We're in the path of a fire. And
I 100% agree with you in that.
And then you're like, why do we have to always just talk about the weather? Can't we talk about what happened at work today?
Right. Like when in that circumstance, talking about the weather is life and death. And you're talking about the most important thing.
But if your partner's like, I don't want to always just talk about the weather.
Right. I would like to talk about something light like politics.
Right. Okay. So here we are. I'm not going to get into what kind of weather we're having. It could be snow. It could be.
But here's a hint. We're in Southern California.
Yeah, where it was hot yesterday. Don't make me go over this all over again. But we're recording this episode, and there's one fewer piece of Daniel with us.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
There's one fewer piece of me.
I didn't know how to say it well.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a second.
There's less of me.
Yeah. By the way, get this, Daniel.
What?
A listener just complimented your haircut.
They did?
Based on how it sounded. No, I posted a story this morning, and Kathy.
Uh-huh.
Let me see which.
Well,
Kathy.
God bless Kathy.
Let's see what Kathy said.
She's my favorite.
It was Kathy Ibarra, and she said, "Loving Daniel's haircut, by the way." And I said, "He did it himself."
I am cutting my own hair now. Well, during this is sort of like a big scoop, honey. You're dropping this like it's nothing. We should have built up to this news.
What's the news? I feel like we've talked about your hair cutting.
No, I don't think we've talked about this specifically.
Go ahead. Let's talk about it again.
During the pandemic, when things were getting a little bit crazy up on top of my head.
Like how? Too long?
By the way, I just sounded like Mickey on the top of my head. Yeah, it was just like my hair got really long and crazy. And then I was like, well, shit. And so I bought some tools and watched some videos, and then I cut it, and it was like, okay. And then I had to do that for like, I'm sure a lot of people did, right? Like a lot of people were cutting their own hair. And then I kind of got like okay at it. And then last year, there was let's just say
incident.
Yeah, there was.
I know we've talked about it before, but you think she listens to our podcast?
Probably not. Like
we've talked about it before because I know that you felt uncomfortable going into it before. You made a decision to change hairstylists from your longtime hairstylist. Well,
I decided not to go back to her because I felt was really out of line. She just like was really. It was just one of these things where it was
attitude
like,
space.
It was
not
one of those
in
things where you go to somebody for like a couple decades and you're like really friendly. You expect a certain kindness, and instead she was just like really. Now she's been going through shit in her life, and I get it, and I'm very compassionate. But it's just like that combined with the fact that it's like so far away. Like I had to drive all the way like out to Pasadena, and it's just like eh. And then I was thinking back so I was kind of dreading going back. And then I thought, wait a minute, why am I spending money on a haircut when I was able to do it?
Yeah.
And so I got some shears and did it. And now this is my new jam. And in fact,
it's your new jam?
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. I actually kind of don't mind if people think that I cut it myself.
Well, they're complimenting it.
I feel like two things. One, I'm at the age where
it doesn't matter.
I both care and don't care about how I look. Like on the one hand, I want to like look good. And I want to get some, I'm like, it's time to buy some clothes now because I haven't really bought any clothes in a while. So I'm going to buy some new clothes, and I want to look good. But on the other hand, like, I think it's kind of cool to have hair that looks like you cut it yourself. Am I crazy? Like, I think that's kind of cool.
Well,
that's like kind of punk rock.
We just saw 2 performances of children aged 8 to 11 and then 12 to 17 performing various Broadway numbers at the Gary Marshall Theater. And the boys' hair.
Da boys.
Yeah. And you could tell like what's cool hair for boys these days. It was eye-opening to me. I've heard it. Like I remember Matt, oh my God, Belknap saying that, there's a word for it, the broccoli or something. Like there's some like permed in the boys' hair is very different than
it's very hard to understand from my Gen X point of view. Like I look at
what are we doing, guys? What are we doing?
One thing that is not discussed enough about Gen Z, I think, mainly, is their war on foreheads. Yeah. They hate foreheads so much.
I know they want to cover it up with permed hair.
What is
kids are boy kids? Kid boys are. That doesn't sound
boy
right.
Kids.
Yeah,
is what we call them.
Are perming their hair. They're getting perms.
But also this thing of always brushing the hair and floofing it like these poodle puffs in front of over their foreheads. Just wild. Yeah. Now in our generation, there was the straight, like kind of like swoop. Yeah. Or like half, they'd shave like a quarter or a half of their hair, and then the rest would be long and kind of go over their forehead. That was sort of I predate goth. We didn't call it goth, but it was like.
What'd you call it?
Just punk.
New romantic?
We just called it punk.
Okay.
It was like the kids that would be considered goth. The kids I knew who would now be considered goth were like, they were just punk. And that was the punk look, which was to have it like down. Mm-hmm. Like that. So anyway.
So now you cut your hair. So what that means is there's always tiny hairs in our bathroom.
I try hard to clean it up. It's sort of a mess. But it's saving us so much money.
Can I tell you where I find them sometimes? It might embarrass you, though.
Where?
On the toilet seat.
Yeah, that's because I try to. Well, because you're like, don't flush them. You'll clog the toilet, and so I have to like.
No, I didn't say that. Wait, I don't say that. I say don't wash them down the sink. You'll clog the sink.
No, you told me not to flush them.
Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah, you're not aware of how crazy you are. But you also put the trash on top of the toilet.
Yeah, because Petey gets into it.
Gets into it. So I have to like make that journey with the dried tiny pieces of hair, and the wind does what the wind does.
In the bathroom?
Everywhere.
What happened to that thing you bought? Didn't you buy something that Joe Quazala had told us about that was like a hammock?
No, it didn't.
You didn't buy that?
No.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on. I need to tell everyone that I am on Patreon. Patreon.com/Alison Rosen. And I just put up 2 episodes wherein, as I said in the description on Patreon, I talk too much, putting my personal relationships at risk and potentially making my life much more complicated. I am in a situation right now where every day there is content.
I'm listening.
Every time I stand up, I have laid a content egg. And it's not just like it's good for the podcast to bequeath my content eggs. It's also that it's all emotional and intense and weird, and I want to share all of it. However, I can't share 100% of it for numerous reasons, some of them probably legal. So I probably did say too much on Patreon. But everyone on Patreon has promised they won't say anything. Patreon.com/Alison Rosen. Also, I am on Substack. AlisonRosen.substack.com. Going to put up one of those today or tomorrow, a new one. All right. So, anything going on your phone that you need to attend to?
No, I'm good.
You know what I kind of need? A tissue. And I think there's none in this studio. Oh, there's some over there. All right. We're going to take a quick break. Okay, I'm back. Listen, what I thought were tissues were 2 light bulbs in a tissue box, which is not going to help at all. So I had to use a paper towel. Thus, my nostrils are a little abraded. Now, as I said at the top of the show, that's real showbiz talk. That's recorder talk. Do you know what top of the show means?
It means when you print out the show on a piece of paper, yes. It's the part that's the top part.
Yes, exactly. There is a tiny bit less of you because you had a tooth pulled yesterday.
I did, I know.
And
it begins. The deterioration of the decay and deterioration of my body has officially begun.
Right. Now countdown to what? Death?
Well, I mean, that's always the case, right?
Yeah, countdown to death starts when you are born.
Yeah. A few years ago, I guess I had to have a root canal on my back molar.
That was your first root canal ever, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. I had my first root canal when I was in college.
Yeah, and the guy who did the root canal, I think he was good. He just, I don't know, like when they do the root canal, they go in and they disinfect the area, and I guess he just didn't do enough disinfecting because like they put the crown on and everything was fine, but then in the x-rays it looked like there was a little gap forming in the x-ray, under the tooth.
Is that a little infection?
And they're like, oh yeah, and then it started to grow.
Did you have any pain though?
Not really. Well, there was a little sensitivity was all, but there's no nerve there. They kill the nerve. Right. So I didn't really feel.
Well, sometimes they don't entirely kill it. Sometimes I think that can be an issue, is that they don't get it entirely.
Well, they must have, because I didn't really feel pain. But like I said, it was sensitive. And then the issue was, well, they could go in and they could redo it, or they could pull it and do nothing, or pull it and put in a prosthetic. And
like a fake arm.
Yeah, you could put a fake arm in there. And they have these arms now that'll help grab the food while you're chewing.
Oh my God. So you just open your mouth and
Yeah, and it'll reach out and it'll pull the food into your mouth.
Is it like a tiny human arm, or is it like a crab, like a fiddler crab?
Well, they make it look human because otherwise it'd be gross.
Does it sit inside your mouth, or does it?
Yeah, it's like a retractable. It just like
so nothing
folds
nothing hangles out of your mouth.
Right, it folds in while you got your mouth closed, and then when you're ready, you open your mouth and it reaches out and grabs things and pulls it in. AI technology. I don't understand
why
it.
didn't you opt for that? Is it really? Is it prohibitively
It's a little bit expensive.
Okay.
And you know what? My insurance doesn't cover it. They think like, why do you need an arm in your mouth?
Right.
Which
they don't know.
When I first thought, I was like, I was pissed, but now I guess when I say it, it kind of makes it. Why do you? I guess, but
I don't know. I mean, sort of like, why do you need a remote control to your stereo?
It's exactly the same. I bet you back when remote controls came on board, insurance companies were like, we're not covering
I
those.
couldn't get mine. I submitted a super bill for mine. I remember when I was shopping for my JVC boombox for college, I was like, I don't need a remote control. That's too fancy.
The idea of a remote control for your boombox always felt silly.
Yes.
But if you think about it, a lot of boomboxes were used as just your speaker, and so that would be some.
Maybe boombox is not what I mean. It had 3 pieces.
Another one.
Yeah.
It has the middle piece and then detachable speakers.
Yes, but when you detach them, the middle piece always looks like it needs its friends.
Right.
Because it's got those like.
But you could then reattach the speakers and carry it.
Yes, but whoever did.
Yeah.
Not
I had one of those. Anyway, yeah.
So you didn't get the claw in your arm.
Well, but then the problem is, like, to redo it, my tooth was they just drilled too much. It was like not worth it. It probably wouldn't have like really saving the tooth, in other words, became kind of like a losing proposition.
Saving the tooth became losing money.
Well, losing money, and I probably would have to go back because it probably wouldn't have worked. And so I was just like, I'm at the age, I'm at the point where I don't really care.
But I thought you were worried about losing your Giga Chad jawline.
Well, yeah. So what they did is they put bone. She took out the tooth and then she filled it with bone that's going to then like fuse to so it'll fill, and then that'll give me the if I want later. I don't think I'm gonna, but like if I want later to put in a thing, it'll give me the opportunity to do that.
A prosthetic arm.
Yeah, and
now, unfortunately, you didn't ask the questions I was hoping you would ask about
the cadaver.
Where this bone comes from, what part of the body is it? Is it a cadaver? Obviously, it probably
I was just hoping it wasn't like a serial killer, because then I'll become a serial killer.
Or your mouth will pull off the mic like a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. So
now you're too far away. I'm sorry. Split the difference.
How's this?
That seems good.
Okay. Yeah. So there's like a dead person's bone in my mouth, which wouldn't be the first time. Because
you're a cannibal?
No, because I like to suck off dead people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That was my second guess.
It was a euphemism, honey. Jesus Christ. I kind of don't get. It's like when I had the Mohs surgery on my face.
Uh-huh.
You know, I had the skin cancer on my cheek, and they were. I
wasn't with you at that time.
No, but they were like, my dermatologist was like, okay, so the way this is going to work is, you know, we'll do the Mohs surgery. We'll cut this like nickel size hole in your face. And then if you want, you can like arrange with a plastic surgeon to have
a skin graft.
No, to have it done in such a way sewn and whatever, such a way that it looks really, really clean. Like if you get a plastic surgeon to do, the idea being if you get a plastic surgeon to fix it after then it'll look as good as it possibly could look.
Right.
And I was like, I don't give a shit. Just sew it up. Because to me, I was like, I don't mind having a big ass scar on my cheek. That's kind of badass.
Just like you don't mind if people know that you cut your own hair.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like having a missing tooth, or
you're turning into a pirate.
I don't know what it is. I just
a like pirate ethos.
I'm finding that I authentically do not care if I have. I think it's like I like things to have character, and the more character I feel like I
have tooth. Remind me, I want to say something about tattoos because that relates. But wait, I have a question.
Yeah,
was he saying go to a plastic surgeon for the whole thing, or was he saying
we'll do this and then you go and have another procedure to like make it, you know, nice. So I guess they would just do
it.
Yeah, they would suture it up and then they would kind of undo that and I don't know.
That seems.
But he ended up doing a great job. Like
I know he put it in your
way
smile
better
line.
than I. Yeah, he kind of like matched it with my smile.
I don't even notice it.
Yeah, you only really notice it, I guess. Oh, and then he hit it with lasers so that like the redness went down, so it's like barely noticeable. I don't know.
I feel like the answer would be to have a plastic surgeon do the whole thing, but maybe a plastic surgeon can't do the Mose part. I don't know.
Right.
Imagine if your name was Mose and you were known for a really long, kind of torturous, but, ultimately good procedure. That's what my podcast
Can you
is.
even imagine that?
I can't
that
even.
stretches like, oh, man. It's like medical science fiction.
So I was thinking about people who get tattoos after they've experienced something traumatic or after someone dies.
Right.
You have one tattoo. I have
one.
0 tattoos. But I was thinking how there's sort of this, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's this way or not. It seems to be that there's this thing of like, I've experienced something major and awful, and I want to wear it on my body. It's almost like I want to put my scar on my body. Do you think it's that? Maybe not, though. I feel like that's not quite fair to people who have tattoos for different reasons.
I think it's more like, there might be that, but I think most of the time when I see somebody who's had some sort of trauma of some sort, and then they get a tattoo, it's because they want to project this notion of strength that they have earned from the trauma. Like, it's like I am wearing it like it's something
that I like taking control over.
It's not like, oh, look at my wound. It's usually like a symbol of having overcome it.
Yeah.
It's not a feel sorry for me. It's a I take pride in what I've endured kind of thing.
Right. That makes sense. But that's kind of what you're saying. Take my tooth. I'm going to mangle my hair. No offense. I think it looks good. And let me wear my Mose scar. I'm proud of what I've been through.
No, I'm not.
I think that's what you're saying.
I'm not. I don't want anyone to look at me and go, that poor guy.
Well, then why did you tattoo a tooth on your cheek?
Why you look at that poor guy over there?
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, like, I want people to, like, look at that scary looking motherfucker. I don't want to mess with him.
Would you get a gold tooth?
Ooh, maybe.
So here's a tooth question. And I can only take so much dental talk.
Yeah.
And we've far surpassed it. That makes it sound like I'm an asshole since I cannot stop talking about teeth. I guess what I mean to say is I feel like other people have a threshold. And anyway, here's my question. I believe that we have dental listeners, so weigh in. If a tooth is unopposed, it keeps growing. So is your top tooth now going to...
That's the thought. That would be the main argument. Because no one can see this tooth.
A
it's
prosthetic,
like way in the back. That would be the main argument for getting it, is to oppose the top tooth.
Because
now it's going
now
to start like maybe loosening or something. I don't know.
Right. What will that tooth do if it's unopposed?
I don't know, but like I often will wake up with headaches because I like clench my teeth. And so it might help to not have a tooth there.
You used to always wear a mouth guard.
Yeah.
What happened?
Like, it became so hard to keep that thing clean.
Oh.
Like, I would brush it every night, but still it would build up like calcium or something.
You know what you need is one of my sonic, like I have a little thingy.
Yeah, they didn't have that.
I know, but they have them now and they're like cheap.
Yeah, I literally was just
waves.
talking to my dentist the last time I went about getting one. So I might get
a mouth guard.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right. What else? What else is going on in the Daniel world?
What is going on? I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good generally these days.
Good. I have a question for you.
What?
So you have now been drawn into the project of cleaning my mom's house or sorting through.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea initially, I was thinking we would like, what you do when you move, which is clear out a whole place. And I was like, it'll take us 6 years. There's no way. We've abandoned that idea. And now it's more like we're going to go through and we're going to get out anything of sentimental or monetary value. And then the rest, the painters who are able to they'll just throw it all out for us. Yeah. That's what the realtor had said. Like, you can Like, we can just walk away and they'll throw it all out. However, the idea, and I shared this on Patreon, there is a diamond ring missing right now.
Yeah.
My grandmother's diamond ring. It has baguette diamonds. I Googled baguette diamonds. The headlines are like, why does no one want baguette diamonds? Why have baguette diamonds lost their value? Like, sorry, you have a baguette diamond ring. It's worth nothing. So it's not really worth that much. But the idea of a ring that's worth some thousands of dollars just going missing is killing me, but it's probably not worth it to hold anything up to search high and low for the ring. That being said, I have already played through the part where we're like, okay, we're done. Enjoy the ring that you're going to maybe find. I don't know where it could be. Also, I think I mentioned there's supposedly a safe in the house and we can't find the safe. So, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. We will get to the point. Hopefully we'll find these things before we walk away from the mess. But anyway, my sister and I had been doing it. We're a couple of slow ladies who like to look at every scrap of paper. But you came and you made quick work of a section of the garage, and it was so helpful. But what's your reaction to everything now that you're part of this?
Well, so there's an office that when I first saw it a few weeks ago, it was like, holy shit.
Well, you had also seen it.
Yeah, but when I was looking at it with the eyes of cleaning it out, I was just like, this is a nightmare. Because your mom didn't throw anything away. No,
and it was just piles and piles and piles. It was not organized. There's a layer. It's like there's a layer of organization, and then there's like 11 years on top of that of just throwing paper
like
strewn everywhere.
Every piece of mail that she ever received.
She printed out She printed out the Amazon page of every item she bought on Amazon. She bought a lot. So it's not just that.
Printing that is such a boomer thing. I'm sorry, boomers, but that's like printing out every
emails were printed out.
It's as though like she doesn't trust that Amazon's going to keep the record on their own website.
But
I
was actually happy to find. I had completely forgotten about this. When I broke up with this guy in New York, I had a whole like AIM conversation, AOL Instant Messenger conversation with her about it, and I cannot get into my AOL anymore. And I sometimes like to look at old stuff, because I'm sentimental. But she had that conversation printed out. And so I was like kind of happy to find that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because I had forgotten all the
details.
details.
Why would she have printed that out?
I have no idea.
That's very strange.
I know.
Well, so looking at that, I was like, well, a lot of this is garbage. But the problem is that inside that garbage is stuff that's important. So you're going to have to go through each piece of mail, each piece of paper. So I was like, oh, this is going to take fucking forever. And that's what you'd been mainly going through.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing where, I'm sorry to use a weight loss metaphor for anyone who's triggered by that, but like in my experience, at the beginning, you're like, ooh, I can definitely see the progress I've made. And then you get to a point where you're like, all I see is how far away I am from what I want to be.
Or like eating a big bowl of pasta. Like, when you're eating and you look down, it looks like you just got served the bowl of pasta.
Am I stregonona?
Yeah.
The thing where I've made progress in this office, but this is just a scintilla of what I have to do.
I mean, so you'd gone down there a couple times and spent all day.
Yeah.
And so then when I saw it after that, you were like, I was expecting it to be really clean. It looked like nothing had been done. I mean, it looked like some of the papers on her desk had been moved, but I was like, oh, this is going to take a long time. So there's that part of it. And
please describe my face right now.
I know you're out. I'm sorry. That's just, you wanted my reaction.
It's fine.
But that doesn't mean you didn't. It just means that's the level of job it was.
You're forgetting that you couldn't even. Well, first of all, there's 3 trash bags of stuff.
Yeah.
And I said to my sister, because she wasn't there when I was doing it. So I was like, here's the trash bags. I promise you it's trash. If you need to go through it before you throw it out, fine. And those are in the office now. And I'm like, just let go of the trash. Right, yeah. But so it looks messier. But on my dad's desk chair, there were huge stacks of paper, and there were huge stacks of paper all around his chair. You're forgetting how bad it was. But I understand that it looks
well, let's just say this. It still looks like it's a huge job.
Okay.
Like, yes, you've done a lot, and yet it's still a huge job. So there's that. There's also, I've seen you try to clean a desk before, and it's just like, it's literally like a person who just is, it's like you you're a person who's been asked to clean a desk, but you also don't know how to move your hands yet. You're still like learning to use fingers. So it's like, oh shit, this is going to take forever. So like every single thing, it's like, oh, and then 10 minutes later you go move on to the next piece of paper. And then
my sister's slower than I am.
Yeah, and you don't have a sense of how to organize.
I'm the daughter of the woman who lived in the house.
Well, yeah,
I never learned.
Right, and so,
think of the woman who lived in a shoe and her 9 children. They also only know how to live in a shoe.
Right. It's just a bunch of shoes. And then the other thing is that it's all meaningful to you because it's like sentimental. Whereas for me,
it's just trash.
It's just
shit.
It all looks like trash.
Yeah.
So you said so in the garage. It's like a 2-car garage, 3-car. It's a 3-car garage. Oh yeah, check out the garage. Oh yeah, it's a big. Get out of here, you motherfuckers! And one of the garage spaces, only one of the garage spaces would have a car in it. The other 2 garage spaces are full of like just
shit,
just stacks of stuff. And so, I was like, all right, I just tackled one of those, and it took me like all afternoon, but 90% of it was literally
boxes.
Just like she would buy something, say like a speaker, like a sound bar for the TV, and then keep the box that it came in. She every appliance, air purifier, whatever, keep the box. Like I don't know. It's as though she thought
we still have our air purifier box, or did we?
We just bought it, and the reason. Okay, she kept the boxes as though she was always about to return everything.
Yes,
and needed the box, which may be the case, and then she'd forget. With us, yes, we just bought an air purifier like right after the fires because the air was really toxic, and we have the box because there was an idea that we might return it. At a certain point, you go, okay, we're not going to return it, or we've missed the window. Throw it away. And I do. We don't hang on to box. I don't think there's a single box that we have in the garage. So there's that. There's also every bag. And I'm talking like, now clearly it couldn't have been every single Amazon package bag because that lady bought a lot of things on Amazon or Nordstrom's or whatever. But it was a lot. There was a lot of bags, and these are not reusable bags. It was just so there's a lot of that kind of stuff.
That stuff's easy, though.
So going through and separating the trash from the not trash, and then just creating stacks in different, so that it's easier to go through. That's kind of what I did, and there's still so much left. It's wild. Like, So and then she would buy. I don't know if anyone cares about this, but she would buy like multiple versions of the same thing. I think because she would want to try the sizes, and then
she didn't return them,
and then not return them. So there's just like tons of clothes
and shoes and bags
and just that were never used. So
they still have the tags on.
They have the tag, yeah. And it's like we can't really return it now, so we're just gonna have to like.
I actually
burn
wonder
it.
No, you try to sell it or something or donate it. I mean,
nah, I'm gonna burn it.
Okay, I wonder some of it if we could return it, but I just don't think that that's the best use of our time right now.
I am sure that with a certain amount of it, if we went to like Nordstrom's that is very good about returns, they would probably give us. But like, I do not want to do that.
No,
I don't want to fucking deal with that shit. So anyway, I can be very fast. I'm good at that kind of shit.
Yeah, I know. I was so thankful. I was like, oh, Daniel will be doing a lot of this.
But when I saw The Office, I was like, oh, they're going to need me to do this shit. It's not just that I can, it's that I have to.
You mean when you saw The Office the other day?
Yeah, because this is going to take 5 years to go through this house at this pace.
I have to tell you, I'm sitting here kind of.
No, but that's more of a statement of, well, I guess it is partly.
Rebuke of your lovely life.
It's partly a statement of like the amount of shit there is.
I wish I had taken a picture of The Office at the beginning.
No, I remember it.
I know, but I'm sitting here and it's fun. I asked for your reaction
and your
thoughts, and I appreciate the honesty, but I'm sitting here. I always say I'm kind of guttering, but then people are like, I don't think that means what you think it means. I don't know if I'm using it correctly. It's my word for like, I'm blinking. I'm kind of like reacting. I'm having a reaction. That sounds more intense than I mean, though. I'm kind of sitting here licking my wounds over what you just said, though, about The Office. I was worried someone would see The Office and be like, you haven't done shit. But I swear to God, I did so
But I know
much.
that. I know that you did.
I did so much in there.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
But I know I didn't finish, like, by a long
It's not so
shot.
much what you've done as it is what's still left to be done.
Yeah, I know. The good thing, though, is that also I realized a lot of this job is just figuring out what's where, like what it all is. So I have a better sense of what everything is, but I actually don't really.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'd say get rid of everything. Has no meaning to me, so I can say that.
Well, we need someone to say stuff like that.
It's gonna be there's gonna be a lot of gray area there where you're just gonna have to make some tough choices and just know that there might be things you wish you'd held on to, and you know what I mean. Like
literally can't think of one.
Yeah, I mean there is some stuff in there that's kind of neat. Like there's like really old, like when I got to the back of the pile, like way like stuff that has not seen the light of day in 40 years. Mm-hmm. There was that like Polaroid. What was that viewer?
Polavision. So that's like from the late 70s or early 80s. It was called Polavision. Polaroid made it, and it was you could take home movies. They have no sound though.
With a Polaroid?
Yeah, it was like a Polavision. I always say polar, but it's Polavision camera.
Oh, it was a special camera.
Yeah, and then there would be like these cartridges, and you'd put them in that.
Were they
viewer.
super like grainy and black and white?
Yeah. No, they were color, but they were grainy.
They were, okay.
It like kind of shook. The images kind of like...
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing them. I wonder if we still have any of them. But it's like, and then it's like, yeah, is that worth any money?
Oh, I doubt it even works anymore because it was in the garage. I think it like has weathered.
Yeah. Speaking of, all of my cassette tapes from all the interviews I've done over my entire career were in my bedroom, and I'm like, well, I'm going to take those. But they were sitting in the trunk of the car yesterday. I forgot. I got them out. Hopefully they're not too.
And you have a ton of VHS tapes, like bags and bags of VHS tapes, which could be fun. Now, do you think any of those are like taped from the TV?
Most of those are taped from the TV.
See, there's a comedian, I want to say Matt something. I forget his name. I'm sorry. He's very funny on Twitter, but on TikTok, what he like what he'll do is he'll get from estate sales those bags of VHS tapes. And so he has a room in his house where it's just like tons of and last year every day he would take one out and just see what was on it and then put it on TikTok. And it was so fun because you're looking at like, you know, some special,
it's like
from
Race
like
for Your Life, Charlie Brown from 1980
but it would have the commercials and like so you get to see like 1983 commercials or whatever.
Battle of the Network Stars.
Yeah, so sometimes at the time you're like, why would I ever save this recording of the Cosby Show? And it's like because it's got the commercials.
Well, unfortunately, I was thinking we could just dump all that, but now that you've made this case, it's like, oh, maybe we should keep some of those.
But someone's got to go through it is the problem.
Through it on the VHS, you mean?
Yeah,
and like, I think do we still have a VHS player?
We do.
Because there's a simple device that you hook up to your computer and then you can like digitize it.
I also think you could probably send them to one of those services that'll digitize everything for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we keep some of those, but many of those we can get rid of. But then some of those might be like me in the 8th grade musical. I've actually been thinking about that. Like, do we want to keep the tape of me in the 8th grade musical?
We should price out what it would take to digitize them all and not have to go through them first.
Yeah.
And maybe we can... I mean, we're in Burbank, for God's sake. There's got to be a place we could drop it off that does that here.
Right.
Maybe it's worth it to just digitize all of it. Yes, we're going to get like the Carol Burnett final episode, you know, but we'll also get, your boring ass recital, you know.
Is that the one where Radar has a break from reality?
Yeah. They saved that for the Carol Burnett.
No, it was Hawkeye, right? Who is it? In the MASH finale who like has a breakdown.
Yeah, actually, it could have been either.
Is it Hawkeye? Do you remember that episode? I didn't watch MASH.
I forget who it was.
As a kid, I couldn't stand MASH. As an adult, I really enjoy the early seasons, but
You like the silly seasons.
yes, I prefer them. But I did see the finale, and oh my God, so upsetting.
Yeah, well,
I got to look it up.
it was a real anti-war show.
Do you remember the finale?
No, I remember that there was something like that. There was something. Was that the one with the child?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the one of them, spoiler, he's like in therapy talking about something that happened, and they were all on a bus, and maybe like enemies were coming toward them, and a woman had a chicken that wouldn't stop making noise, so she had to suffocate the chicken so that they wouldn't be found. But then as he's talking about it, all of a sudden he remembers it wasn't a chicken, it was an infant.
Yeah.
Perfect viewing for like
this
an
was
8-year-old.
considered a comedy in the 70s.
Yeah. No, this was now the 80s. This was 83. Okay. Yes, so the film, what? No, it's an episode. So it begins with Hawkeye Pierce being treated at a psychiatric hospital by Sidney Friedman. Sidney Friedman was a character that we used to see a lot. That was the psychiatrist. So Hawkeye, as Alan Alda, is revealed he suffered a PTS-induced nervous breakdown while working in the operating room. He tells Friedman about a recent beach outing by a busload of camp staff. They picked up some refugees and wounded soldiers on their return home. Forced to pull off the road to avoid an enemy patrol, Hawkeye remembers telling a refugee to keep her chicken quiet. So Hawkeye felt responsible, causing her to smother it. Let's see. Hawkeye's treatment progresses, and he eventually realizes that the woman on the bus had actually smothered her baby to prevent being heard by the enemy patrol. Not a chicken, as he had initially thought in a false memory. Yes, and I remember this part. He breaks down at the realization and vents anger on Sidney for making him remember the true nature of the incident. Sidney explains it was necessary for his recovery and returns Hawkeye to duty. Blah, blah, blah. So intense. I feel like back in the day, there were, and also in Good Will Hunting, perhaps, there were like a lot of stuff. There were a lot of shows and movies that dealt with people having these big psychological revelations in their work in therapy. Is
like
there
Ordinary
any?
People?
I didn't see that, but yeah. Is there, or even Sybil, which was like a fucking horror movie and fake, but even that is about therapy. Is there anything like that anymore? There's
shows that involve therapy?
Yeah. But like
Sopranos.
I guess, yeah. But more like these big revelations in therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those things that's so
trite?
No, it's just like
been done?
Yeah, it's hard to pull it off now because it's so self-conscious a device.
Yes.
But usually when it's done, like all those things you mentioned are good things. Like I loved In Treatment, the original version with Gabriel Byrne, and like, yeah, The Sopranos. I mean, come on, and even like Ordinary People, all that. Those are all good. So, yeah. Now I haven't seen
Sybil.
No. Not Meet the Fuckers. What's the one with De Niro and
Meet the Parents?
No, what's the one with De Niro and Billy Crystal?
Oh, Analyze This?
Analyze This.
That was supposed to be a good movie, I think. Wait, have you seen Sybil, though? Do you know about Sybil?
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, God. So...
It's about Sybil Shepherd?
Uh-huh. It's actually a behind-the-scenes, unauthorized documentary of moonlighting.
Sybil, is that about multiple personalities?
Yes. So Sally Field... I always wonder if it's Field or Fields. It's Field, right? Just one.
Sure.
Sally Fields.
No.
Sally Field. Fields. It's Fields. Oh, God. I've got to. Sally Field. No, it's just Field. All right. How do I commit that to memory? Anyway, she plays Sybil, who has multiple personality disorder. And she is treated by Paul Newman's wife, I believe, Joanne Woodward, who's her therapist. And in therapy, they discover that her mother had been like horrifically, physically, sexually abusive to her and would like do these like Baroque, like awful, awful, upsetting, disturbing, like perverse things to her. And that is when she started dissociating. And it was sold as a true story. And we watched it in psychology class in high school. And I was just like so shaken up by it. And then my own mother, I like was very upset by it. So my mother sat with me to watch the rest of it with me because she had this idea that somehow what you're imagining could be worse than the actual movie, which I think her heart was in the right place. But like making me watch the rest of that movie with her was not like, no, she should have allow me to like douse, like block the memory with watching, 8 hours of Facts of Life or something. She used to always do that. Whatever, like if you're afraid of, it was almost like exposure therapy, but she really thought this was like the best thing to do. It was not. But anyway, so I was just like so upset by this. It turned out it was not real. It was like a great hoax or urban legend.
Isn't the whole notion of personality disorder, multiple personalities, been a bit
debunked? I think so.
Like, what is the truth about that, I guess, is what I want to know.
I think it has a different name now. I think it's dissociative identity disorder or something. So it was a very like in Sybil the movie, it was like very distinct personalities, and it's like you have your sort of main personality and then umbrella personalities, but there's one that you like has control of them, and it was this sort of elaborate thing. I think that has pretty much been debunked, and I think that maybe people dissociate and might have some memory problems, but I don't think it's like, I'm Gertrude now and I like horseback riding.
Right. It's not like Severance.
Where was I?
Where you don't know. Yeah. You don't have any memory.
I'm a baby.
Right.
I do baby stuff. Oh, where was I?
Right.
Then that's how it is in Sybil, where like they have different voices and different interests, and they're all different signs of the zodiac. Not really.
Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't read something properly, but I feel like at some point I saw something that said it was, and now I don't believe it at all.
Okay, let's just look it up.
Multiple personality.
Is multiple,
like in that sense.
Okay, is multiple personality disorder real? Oh, yeah. This is what AI says, but I don't trust them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like the debate over whether it's real. Yes, multiple personality disorder, now known as dissociative identity disorder, is a real and recognized mental health condition. Okay, well, they're saying that it is real, but I'm sorry, I don't think it is. While DID is a recognized medical condition, it has been the subject of some controversy. Some critics argue that it is a fictional disorder created by Hollywood and popular media. However, there is substantial scientific evidence to support the existence and reality of DID. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, there you go. I for a while I was getting on TikTok. I was getting, and hey TikTok, I'd like to see these again. I was getting stuff from people who were.
Wait, hang on 1 second.
This week on TikTok, also known as twat.
I mean, if we're gonna do it, let's do it.
Sure. I was getting TikToks from people. They should be like talks or ticks. Like TikTok is way too much for me to say.
Yeah.
I was getting talks from people who were trying to explain their mental, whatever. I don't want to say mental disorder. What do we call them? Like
syndrome, condition,
whatever their condition is. So like they would be like, "This is what it's like to have whatever," and I was starting to get a lot of schizophrenics talking about what it's like to be schizophrenic, and it's really interesting because it's obviously a very stigmatized thing. Schizophrenics can be very scary. There's a lot of I think of someone as like, oh, that person got schizophrenia, they're probably going to be homeless. Like it's just like that extreme situation. And this one was like this. She was talking about what it's like when she has visions of, because you'll hear them say, oh, I see people or they talk to me, I hear voices. It's like, so she did a video where she created like what she sees. And so it was like you see a room and then you see this shadow figure poking its head into the room or standing behind a couch
Creepy.
watching you. Yeah, and it's like super fucking like you imagine that you're watching this video like, oh my God, if I saw that, I would be pissing my pants. That would be so fucking scary. And then I was listening to this podcast that's all about like the supernatural, and it's pretty good. It's Other World, I think. It's pretty popular.
I didn't know you listened to other podcasts.
Yeah. I don't a lot, but this one I'll listen to every now and then.
Fine.
And you know, the guy who hosts it is like a skeptic, and he just presents people telling their stories. And there was one, I don't listen to it enough to see if this is recurring, but there's a woman, and she was talking about how, you know, she started to see these spirits, and they were doing, and she was describing exactly
So she's
what this person who is schizophrenic says that they saw. And she was like, you know, and she's presenting it as though there was this spirit following her around, and, you know,
she could talk to it.
Yeah. And then and it was like, I wanted to be like, honey, you might have
popularity
schizophrenia
on TikTok.
Like, and I was just wondering, and then I got me thinking, like, I wonder how many of these like so-called encounters with the supernatural aren't just some
psychological thing.
Very, you know.
Well, it's something that's really interesting, I think. It is really interesting the way schizophrenia is a medical condition that tends to have the same features.
Right.
Like, you'd think when someone has a break from reality, they're all, you know, everyone has a different kind of, it manifests in different ways, and it does. But in general, there are some features that are pretty similar. So it's like delusions of grandeur and persecution. You know, a lot of people think they talk to Jesus. A lot of, you know, the voices often say kind of similar things. And it's interesting, though. It's sort of like if you have, you know, strep, it's going to manifest in this way.
Yeah, it's like an actual condition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are a lot of these people medicated?
Which ones?
The ones on TikTok.
Yes.
So,
and they'll talk about that, and they'll talk about what.
So here's an interesting thing that I never ever talk about on air, but I'm realizing I sort of probably could at this point.
That you want to tell them that you have. Do you really want to tell them that you have schizophrenia?
No, not that. What time is it?
I'm gonna have to leave in like 5.
Okay. So I've mentioned before that my grandfather was a psychoanalyst. But I have not gone into much detail about him. So he was a psychoanalyst. He believed that he had this gift where he could bring people out of schizophrenia.
You've never talked about this.
I've never talked about this.
No.
He could cure schizophrenia. That is what he said.
Your grandfather was actually famous.
He won like Man of the Year, and he was invited to Anna Freud's house, and he was very
He treated
celebrated.
the Lindberghs.
He treated. I don't know if I think that can be public. Yeah, he treated like a lot, and some politicians.
They've been dead for a long time, honey.
Yeah, I know. But someone who was writing a play about the Lindberghs reached out to me because they wanted some info about the relation. So I think that is public. But he
For a while, he was the toast of the town.
He was the toast
in New
of the
York.
town. He was a celebrity.
Yes.
He had very unconventional practices. He had schizophrenics living in the house
What your dad
with my
grew
dad,
up
with schizophrenics in the house
yes.
with them. One of them took a shit outside my grandfather and grandmother's bedroom door, and my grandmother was so pissed. It's like, but the idea was like the schizophrenic had done it like sort of like as to get back at them.
Oh,
like
was
the
it
way,
like a gift?
It wasn't a gift, no. Like the way your dog will like poop in your shoe or something. I remember my dad like trained one of the schizophrenics to like bring him a Coke, and he was like so happy that he had. And also, the way I said that makes it sound
Like
so disrespectful. Well, here's a weird thing. So,
but that's kind of how it was presented to you.
In the house, there were like these area rugs, and then there was a space between the area rugs, and the dogs. They had dogs in the house too, 2 dogs. And the dogs and the schizophrenics always never wanted to step on the space in between the area rugs. These are not the main features of the whole story. These are just things that I'm remembering. I mean, there's a book called Savage Sleep that Millen Brand, who was famous for writing about psychological issues of the day, he lived with the family for years and then wrote this fictionalized version of my grandfather. But anyway, so then my grandfather was very, very famous, and then he fell out of favor. He ended up losing his license. He was abusive. He was sexually abusing his staff. he would like treat people, supposedly bring them out of schizophrenia, and then, as my understanding, like hire them. So he had a lot of former patients working for them.
Lots of lines were
He was
crossed.
he was like the most dynamic, charismatic cult leader kind of figure. And he did all the cult leader shit, which is like really poor sexual boundary, like abusive.
I just want to. So his thing was curing schizophrenia, and he would apparently, like, he would actually apparently. People would get better under his care, but his methods were not replicable. Like they couldn't.
So he like.
So it was very unscientific.
He would. It almost seems like a sideshow thing where like he would go to an institution and he would say, "Bring me your hardest case." This would be in like a crowded, like a hall of people. Bring me your hardest case. They would bring some guy who's been there for 30 years out, and in front of hundreds of people, my grandfather would like bring him out of his schizophrenia. My dad believes that he really did it. My aunt believes he really did it. But now that I am here, I'm like, it doesn't really pass the smell test. Like, can schizophrenia be cured? And can it be cured with someone talking to you? Like, he believed that he could climb into the delusions with them and decode it. Savage sleep was the idea that reality is so painful for these people because their mother doesn't love them. That was what he always said. And so they have like developed this elaborate defense system and they live in a dream world. It just doesn't make sense.
But if it was legitimate, then they would have been able to
redo it,
pull something out of it that they could use today.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote some textbooks, and there are some people who practice similar things. But anyway, so that is my grandfather. But the reason I ask is because back then they were like and he was very opposed to lobotomies and shock treatment. That's how he got into all of it,
which I'm really into. I love those.
But like nowadays, I think medication has taken the place of the idea of a therapist who can like reach someone who's schizophrenic, and I think medication works pretty well.
I mean, I think that, it would be interesting if there was some legitimacy to some of it, in that it's just like you need specific types of people to be able to do it.
Right.
And, that I'm open to that idea. But it does seem like some of the people that he quote unquote cured ended up not
I think
being
they relapsed.
Yeah, it wasn't like they were permanently cured.
Right.
It was more like momentary.
Which I guess is sort of normal of schizophrenia, that it like waxes and wanes.
Right.
I don't know. I feel disgusted that I'm related to this. I used to take pride in being related to this person, and now now that I know more about his downfall and like what a kind of horrible person he was, I feel sort of disgusted by the fact that I'm related to him.
I don't know. You shouldn't feel disgusted because you're not responsible. Like,
his
it's interesting.
His staff killed a patient.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't there when it happened. What?
Is that bad?
And I grew up knowing this story, and it's so upsetting.
I mean, I have relatives who fought for the South in the Civil War. Like,
I guess everyone has skeletons
like you have,
but ick.
All
right. Well, now that all the parents are dead, I can talk more about this. So expect to hear more about this in the future.
Yeah, there's a lot you were muzzled.
That's right. I'd like to remind everyone: Patreon,
Substack,
all that stuff. You
sure? I'd like to remind them of that too.
Okay. Thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Follow Daniel on Blue Sky. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, do you know about the Alison Rosen show?